to think about the concept of what porn is.
Yeah.
You're masturbating over two strangers having sex.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's quite unhealthy in
yeah,
any
yeah.
shape or form. I don't think we need to deep dive into needing to look at the neurological negative impact. I'm like, if you're seeking social connection but having to masturbate, how lonely is that experience? So I think sometimes we need this evidence, or what does it, I'm like, open our eyes. And I think it's obvious that it's not a behavior. And absolutely, there's a lot of negative behaviors that we can engage in, and we can reframe it as a positive one, and maybe a learning experience of what sex is. But I think in general, if you're seeking, we are here for two reasons, I believe: to be authentically ourselves and to socially connect. And I think that is a massive driver in disconnecting us from people. So for me, there's only negatives that can come from it. Anyone that I know that has reverted away from it, their lives have improved. And that's from my own clinical experience. So that would be the evidence that I would see. But yeah,
here's my brow science approach to it as well, because I love the brow science, right? If you combine everything you've just said there with everything that I would feel is right, which is my brow science coming in, with the likes of people like Andrew Huberman, who would talk about a retraining of what you find sexually arousing. So there's some science there as well, which is not necessarily to say that it's directly causing health issues, but it's a reframing of what you find arousing, which from my perspective is not healthy as well, because now you're more aroused by watching rather than pursuing a partner or engaging in all of the things that would lead to a romantic encounter, like having social skills or becoming a better person or becoming desirable yourself and actually competent and confident. For me, it's a complete net negative.
Yeah.
The same as everything else that you are completely addicted to or consumed by. So
Absolutely.
I think this is one thing. I don't think it is an evil thing, but I think it's a thing that is designed specifically to capture a drive.
Yeah.
And you take that drive and point it at porn, and it's not driven at anything else in your life. So for me, that's when my brow science goes. If your man says to me that there's no science pointing to this, I'm like, okay, but step out of that world for 1 second, because it's such an easy game to play to tell me that you're a scientist and I don't understand the science. I'm going to step right out of your world. So now we're playing by world rules.
Yeah.
And say, if I look at this as a net sum game, it's net negative.
Yeah.
Because of all these different reasons. Yeah. And many of them you're never going to be able to prove or disprove.
Absolutely.
So we have to trust Dan's bro science on the Prymal podcast.
I'll trust it.
This is where you come from.
And it makes, all of what you were saying, it just makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
If we're replacing any of our behavior and it's pulling us away from human connection, any opportunity, like to get aroused sexually, that our step is to open our mobile phone and to put up our search engine rather than putting our hands on our partner or to feel the touch of a human being. But they're the steps that we are now getting aroused and preparing ourselves to ejaculate. That, for me, it's we're just so disconnected, and it can be easier. And if you are lonely, these are strategies that can be used. Are they beneficial? I don't feel they are. And I don't feel they are. And I would have listened to a little bit of talks if some people speak about it, whether it be TED Talks or some sex specialists as well. And they would have before advocated, and there was one on Steve Bartlett, and she would have expressed before I would have advocated that people sit with their partner and watch porn. And she's like, and now seeing how things are going and maybe the evidence that she looked at, she's like, I wouldn't be recommending that. This is where I would be guiding couples down. So yeah, I think anything that will pull you away from human connection inherently will be negative. If we're replacing it, because we're drawn towards being connected. We want to be connected, whatever that looks like. If you're an introvert, even young people who have autism would have difficulty in social situations. Inherently, they want to seek connection, in whatever shape that looks like. So I think pull that away from somebody and only bad things can happen.
And I didn't intend this to be a porn-focused episode, but just to make another point on that, because it's a conversation I had recently with somebody about intimacy work and these workshops. And again, something I'm not particularly familiar with at all, but it was an interesting concept for me, these intimacy workshops where people were encouraged to explore their own mind and the fabric of their own mind when it comes to intimacy and connection with their partner. And the vast majority of us tend to have absolutely no understanding of what that means or how to ask for what we want in a relationship or how to actually connect with our partner. So if the advice is to use porn to bring a deeper connection, most of us are only doing that because it's way more difficult to generate an actual connection. So again, it's pulling you further away for what could be a positive outcome for you and a partner. So yeah, I mean, the more you go into it, the deeper you go. I'm not suggesting evidence to go into intimacy workshops, but usually there is lower hanging or more impactful and meaningful fruit than the quick fix dopamine. That's it tends to be just a rule of thumb.
I think like how you reference it there, we're drawn towards the easier option as well, and that's where a natural human behavior will be drawn towards the easier, and the easier is almost never the right way to go. We have to, rather than asking the questions from our partner, what are you seeking, what you want, what feels good for you, and seek that eye contact, that human touch, human connection, or advocate our own needs. Sometimes we don't know them ourselves. Sometimes we're too ashamed. Sometimes it's just easier to click a search and look up whatever you want and get that. But it will disconnect you from connection with your partner. And I would seen a lot of people come out and say that they have never been, their connection with their partners have never been stronger when they've removed porn from their lives. That's what they would have said. Things have just improved massively, that it just took touch, them walking past. And I was more drawn towards it, they would say, and it just felt right. And it just, things only improved when they removed it, rather than, I didn't see any negative effects of anyone removing porn. And